Welcome to another episode of the Dgmg podcast. My name is Zoe Lulinski, and today I'll be giving you guys my takeaways heading into Week 8 of the NFL season. Week 7 came with a lot of fun games, but a lot of injuries as well, so I'll be getting into those a bit later. As we're heading into the trade deadline, in a couple weeks, there's a lot of rumors coming around with who might be on the move and which teams might be looking to sell and which teams are buying here. As we're heading into mid-season, we're trying kind of starting to see where teams are in terms of power rankings and everything. So I'll be giving you guys my top 10 again, and then going into the draft order as it looks heading into Week 8. I got a lot to talk about today, a lot of fun things, so I'll be getting into it. Starting with the trade deadline, a couple of names that are kind of flowing around right now are Cooper Kupp, Myles, Garrett, Max Crosby, and then Bryce Young, of course, because he got benched by the Panthers earlier this season. A lot of big names, I think. Like Myles Garrett, of course, since the Browns just traded Amari Cooper away last week, they could be sellers. Right now, they're at like the number 2 position in the draft, so they could be looking to break down their team and start from scratch. But having a quarterback like Deshaun Watson can make that a little bit hard because he's taking up so much cap space. If they were to cut him, they'd have around $38 million in dead cap in 2027. So it's a complicated situation for them there. Some teams that I could see looking for a trade for Myles Garrett, could be the Bears pairing him up with Montez Sweat. Their defensive line has looked really good so far this season, but pairing up Montez Sweat with another guy like Myles Garrett will obviously take them to the next level. Out of all their positions, the edge rusher is something they need to improve on just to get a bit more pressure. With Aiden Hutchinson, breaking his leg last week in a game, he'll be out for at least most of the season. There's rumors that Aiden Hutchinson for the Lions could be back if they were to make the Super Bowl, but there's a long way to go until then, so getting a guy like Myles Garrett would be a really, really great move for the Lions. I could see Atlanta and the Cowboys looking for him, but that's a big guy to move, a top 3 defensive end in the league right now. It's going to take a lot for any team. One thing I did see was the conversation of the Falcons moving Michael Penix to the Browns in a trade for Myles Garrett, which I think is really intriguing since I think Kirk Cousins will be the long-term starter for the Falcons the next few years, and Michael Penix is not getting any younger, so that seems like an interesting trade that I think would be really fun to see. I want to see Michael Penix get in as soon as possible. I think he's NFL ready, and again, he's not getting any younger. Cooper Kupp has recently been in the news of a possible sell for the Rams, which I also think is interesting. The Rams, other than Puka Nacua, don't have a lot of depth at the position, so I find it a little strange. He is getting older, and he seems to be pretty injury prone. A couple of the teams that I think could be looking into Cooper Kupp are the Chiefs, with all the injuries they've had. The Niners as well. The Niners are down to Ricky Pearsall, their rookie wide receiver, as a number 1 option. Deebo Samuel had an illness and was out. I don't know how long he'll be out for. It sounds like it was something related to pneumonia, and that could take a little bit to recover from. Ayuk is out for the season with an ACL and MCL injuries. And then another interesting one would be the Commanders. They traded Jahan Dotson earlier this season. They have Luke McCaffrey, who's a second-day rookie, who has looked okay so far, but their main option at wide receiver is Terry McLaurin, and pairing up Kupp with McLaurin, I think, could be really helpful for Jaden Daniels as he progresses throughout the season. And then the Ravens, the Ravens look like a top 5 offense right now, top 5 team. And Rashad Bateman has actually looked really good for them. He's been kind of a quiet star for them this season at wide receiver. They have Flowers as well, but again, adding a veteran like Cooper Kupp, I think will make that offense electric. And then, of course, they're run first, with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, but I think that'd be really cool to see as well. I think Bryce Young still has a lot of potential. I think, Raiders and Browns are teams to watch there. And then, if he doesn't move, I think Andy Dalton has been struggling a little bit for the Panthers, so just Bryce Young coming back, gaining some confidence with the Panthers. I think it'd be better for him to get a fresh start, but I could see him staying with the Panthers as well and getting a new start there. Max Crosby, I don't think is a likely option to get traded, but just another team that might be sellers, trying to get draft picks and everything to rebuild, are the Raiders. The Raiders also need a quarterback, so like I said with Bryce Young, Bryce Young is a second-year quarterback and has barely played a full season. As the Chiefs are progressing into the season as well, I think they could be looking for some wide receiver help. I don't know if they'll be looking for a top receiver. That might be more expensive, but, just a couple smaller pieces to help. Leading into my top 10, the Chiefs are again staying at number 1. They're the only undefeated team for so far this season now, so I feel like it's only right to keep them there. They also have showed that through adversity and when they're looking like not a Super Bowl winning team like they're back-to-back, I think they're showing they can win ugly, which is what a good team should do. They should always figure out a way to win, and that's what the Chiefs are doing. So Lions looked really good. They didn't really miss a beat without Aiden Hutchinson. Obviously, they could use a pass rusher. They blitzed on a lot of their plays over the weekend, so there's obviously a different personnel change there without Hutchinson. So, like I said earlier, with the trade deadline, adding someone could help. But they looked really good against the Vikings, who were a 5-0 team. They beat the Vikings over the weekend. So, NFC North is a really tough division, a really fun division to watch and follow. Number 3, I have the Ravens. Like I said, their offense looks electric. Their defense stepped up and played really well against the Buccaneers. They did allow 31 points, but they look really good. Vikings at 4. I'm a little concerned about how easily the Lions, of course, have a great offense, but the Lions just went right down the field as much as they wanted to against the Vikings, so I think that's something they're going to have to look into. But the Vikings are the Vikings. Sam Darnold had one of his best games of the season, and they're still looking really good. The Bills at 5. Adding Amari Cooper was a big addition to that team. Packers at 6. They just beat the Texans, so I have them one spot above the Texans. The Texans' offense really struggled against the Packers. Packers' defensive line and defense in general looks absolutely insane. The Texans' offense had some trouble blocking in the pass rush. At number 8, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They started Russell Wilson at quarterback this week, and I think he showed a major difference in what the offense can do compared to Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields was doing just fine, of course, but I feel like Russell Wilson took that offense to the next level with his deep throw skills. His deep ball accuracy. He targeted George Pickens on multiple go routes, multiple deep routes, and they looked like a really good duo. So I'm excited to see how they continue to play. But the offense took the next level, especially with Najee Harris having 2 back-to-back 100-yard games. Run game always helps, of course. So Commanders, Jaden Daniels didn't play for most of the game. He left the game with a rib injury in the first quarter after like a 50-yard run. He should be week to week, so they're not really sure if he's going to be playing next week against the Bears, but he'll be week to week. Shouldn't be too major of an injury. I have the Commanders at 9. I mean, they absolutely crushed the Panthers without Jaden Daniels, 40-7. They look legit. So Buccaneers at 10. They looked solid, but they did lose both their wide receivers to injury, and I'll get more into that later. So that's my top 10. Heading into some of the bottom teams, Panthers, Patriots, Jaguars, Browns, Titans. I have a little asterisk in my notes about the Dolphins just because of the Tua injury. I feel like they're 2 completely different teams when Tua's in compared to when their quarterback Tua is out. And it does appear that Tua will be back for week 8. So it'll be interesting to see the offense dynamic there once he is back. But as of now, they're a top 10 pick in the draft. So I'm interested to see how they fare once Tua is back for sure. The Patriots, as of now, are the number 1 pick. I think the most important thing for them right now is just to get Drake May help. He's looking really solid with what he has right now, but the offensive line is putting him in danger, and then he really doesn't have much wide receiver help there. I think if they stay at number 1 by the end of the season, trading back for like for a large draft haul, I feel it could be helpful. Browns right now are at number 2. Again, either trading for a quarterback or I'd say drafting one right now with how Deshaun Watson is playing would be one of the main options, but it's also just hard just because of the situation with how much cap space he's taking up for them. Panthers are at 3 right now. To remind everyone, the trade they made with the Chicago Bears to get Bryce Young, they still owe their second-round pick to the Bears this season, so they don't have their second-round pick. That will likely be, 33rd, 34th, a top pick in the second round of the draft. That's a big loss for them, but again, I think either sticking with Bryce Young or going for another quarterback is probably the way to go for them. They also have a need a wide receiver, offensive line, and the secondary for them could use some help for sure. The Titans, I think, just need a new quarterback. I mean, Mason Rudolph played well once when Will Levis was hurt, but they look like they have weapons. Wide receiver Tyler Boyd and DeAndre Hopkins are in their contract year with the team, but I still think that building around a rookie quarterback would be a solid option, or bring back veteran guys like Hopkins and Boyd. And then the Raiders, again, could also use a quarterback. All these top teams, I think, could use a quarterback other than the Patriots. They're kind of in the same situation as the Bears were a couple years ago, which got them eventually Caleb Williams and all these draft picks from the Panthers. So depending on what the Patriots do with that pick, I think they could be in a really solid position to succeed in the future. So that's really interesting to look at. Those are the top 5 draft picks right now. The Patriots at 1, Browns at 2, Panthers 3, Titans 4, and Raiders 5. The rest of the top 10 as of now are the Jaguars, Jets, Giants, Saints, and Dolphins, which are kind of all in the same situation. The Dolphins are an interesting team to look at, seeing how they fare out for the rest of the season. Just getting Tua back and honestly seeing how long Tua stays in. Tua's coming back from a concussion, and it's I think like his 4th or 5th concussion of his NFL career, and within recent years, they're all really major concussions. It's not like anything minor, and I mean, he's still continuing to play, so I hope for his sake that he doesn't get injured again. It's really hard to see. I personally don't think he should be playing anymore, but obviously it's his choice. Speaking of injuries, Buccaneers wide receivers Mike Evans and Chris Godwin both got hurt in their game last night against the Ravens. That's a major loss for a top 10 team like the Buccaneers. They're missing their top 2 receivers until at least week 12. Mike Evans is likely to be out with a hamstring injury until their bye week in week 11, so they won't be getting him back till week 12. And then Chris Godwin's likely out for the year. I don't know if anything else has come out about it, but I think he dislocated his ankle. And the worst part about it is that this injury occurred in like the last 40 seconds of the game when they're still down by 10. So it's a really unfortunate thing to happen. I'm really curious to see how the Buccaneers continue without the 2 of them for the next few weeks. And Deshaun Watson, quarterback for the Browns, tore his Achilles over the weekend as well, so they'll be without him. I think Jameis Winston might be the next guy up for them. As bad as it sounds, this might be a good opportunity for the team to see how they play without Watson. Deshaun Watson has been struggling so far this season, so I'm curious to see how they fare out. But I'd think they'd be tanking the rest of the season, just trying to glide into the draft with like a top pick, I think is the way to go for them. Of course, trading Amari Cooper, they're trading their top guys. That's why Myles Garrett is in the trade rumors as well. Defensive end for the Cowboys, Micah Parsons, also hurt his ankle over the weekend for the Cowboys. He will be a game time decision, so I don't think it should be anything too bad to worry about for them. But he's a top 5 defensive player in the league, so that's something to watch out for. Another interesting thing, so Aiden O'Connell for the Raiders, he's the quarterback for the Raiders right now. He did get injured and was out for the rest of the game over the weekend. I don't know his status, but I did see the Raiders signed Desmond Ridder, which I think is interesting. I don't think that's going to be much of an addition for the team, but just something to watch there. And then finally, heading into the end of this episode of the podcast, I think if this season shows anything, it's shown that the Chiefs are thriving in adversity. They won back-to-back Super Bowls looking for a three-peat, and they're 6-0. They're the only undefeated team in the league still. And no matter how ugly people think they're playing, which they are, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is playing like an average quarterback right now, you know. It's not fully on him. I mean, he needs more weapons. Half of his offense is out. Marquise Brown, Rashee Rice, Isaiah Pacheco. They did bring in Kareem Hunt at running back, who did previously play for the team, so I think he's kind of picking up right where he left off when he did leave them. Like I said, they're the number one team in the league right now, and they're still the team to be, in my opinion. And then I did mention this earlier, but Amari Cooper and Davante Adams just got traded to their teams. Amari Cooper is finding success, and I think he made a big spark in the Bills' offense. It was just something that team needed. You know, I think he's kind of sliding into that number one receiver role with Keon Coleman as a rookie and then Khalil Shakir at the 3. But, you know, he got a touchdown in the second half. The Bills' offense does tend to start out slow and then ease their way into the game, and I think that might just be the way it is this season. But he's fitting in really well with the Bills, and I think added another level and sparked that team that they needed. Another thing to look into is the Jets have major issues. I think, you know, they originally thought they were a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl caliber team. You know, they had the weapons, they had the defense. The defense is still solid. Guys like Sauce Gardner, I mean, when you have top players at their position, you're going to have a solid defense. But they added Aaron Rodgers, and they still are appearing to be struggling, and it's something they still need to figure out. And I think their decision to go with Aaron Rodgers is going to be an issue that I think they're going to come to regret. Aaron Rodgers is showing that he's not. Look, he's always going to be a great quarterback. I mean, he's going to be going to the Hall of Fame, and he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. So he's going to be good here and there, but he's not the quarterback he used to be. And I think the team betting on Aaron Rodgers for their success is a mistake, especially trading for Davante Adams and everything. They're still looking to make the playoffs, and I just don't think they're a big playoff caliber, Super Bowl caliber team that they originally thought they were. And then again, Russell Wilson, it was a really fun game to watch. Russell Wilson, like I said with the Bills, brought a spark to that offense that they needed. They have been winning games. They're 4-2, now 5-2 with Russell Wilson in that game, but that deep ball accuracy that Russell Wilson showed with George Pickens was really awesome to watch, and then it contributed to helping the run game. I think if Russell Wilson continues to play this way, I mean, they have a top 10 defense, so they could be players to watch here as the season progresses. But that's all I have for this episode of the podcast. Thank you guys for watching. Don't get me going, and I'll see you guys next time.